Dun, 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 dun.
Hello, and welcome to Pull to Open, an ongoing quest to watch all of Doctor Who, all of it, all of the TV show in random order. I am Pete Pachal.
And I'm Chris Taylor, and we're a couple of fans, we're a couple of journalists. We've written about Doctor Who. We wrote about Doctor Who together at the website Mashable, where we met, and where
In tandem.
Indeed. And the tagline was obsessed with us, and I think that's an appropriate tagline for this show as well. Come obsess with us about every single story in Doctor Who in obsessively random order.
Yes, we were the epitome of obsessed with us back then, I would say. And we've
We
taken
were.
that obsession forward into the next dimension, dimensionally transcendental.
We've taken it to E-space and back.
Totally. In fact,
Yes.
let me give everyone a little bit of a rundown on where we've been recently. So previously on Pull to Open, we were at Terminus. Terminus, of course, the Fifth Doctor adventure in the middle of the Black Guardian trilogy.
Of course.
And we got we got in and got out.
Yep.
Of that one. But that came hot on the heels of doing one of the classics of the classic series, which is Genesis of the Daleks. Which many consider perhaps the best episode of the classic series, or at least one of them in the top 5. And prior to that, we did some Cybermen with Attack of the Cybermen, the Sixth Doctor. Not quite as revered, you might say, as the Genesis of the Daleks, but it was interesting to see back-to-back episodes with the Doctors number 1 and number 2 baddies.
Right. How good they can get and how bad they can get.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it was all of those were kind of interesting and trying to be epic in their own ways, particularly Terminus, which sort of explained the beginnings of the universe. And now,
in there. Yeah.
Jumping off that hydrogen inrush that created the universe, we have the Eaters of Light. That's what we're doing this week. It is Series 10, Episode 10, towards the end of Peter Capaldi's run.
And if you're anything like this, your response to hearing the Eaters of Light is, that one. Wasn't there a Roman legion? Because as Whovians, like it's impossible to keep every single story in your head, right?
Yeah.
So you remember in shorthand the more famous ones, and this is certainly not that, but it is interesting, and the part of the joy of this random adventure is it takes us to all of the adventures, and we don't skip out midlist stuff like the Eaters of Light. And we do often find, as Idris said, and the Doctor's wife, that the randomizer takes us where we need to go.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think a lot is said by when we hear what the randomizer takes us to, and usually we have an instant reaction. Like when Genesis the Daleks happened, it was like, oh my god,
yeah,
we gotta, this is gonna be huge. And then this one was like,
Yeah, and we were actually just discussing this before we started. Whenever we get to the Daleks Master Plan or the War Games, the two longest stories in Who history, there will be celebration. We'll need some celebration to get through the week of watching.
Well, don't challenge the randomizer just yet. That's for later. Oh my god, this might be the way to.
I'm setting it up. This is Chekhov's gun.
You're kind of anti-jinxing us, I think. It's man, I'm nervous just about the end of the show.
I'm going to save my special. I do already have a special challenge for the randomizer, but we'll save that for the end of the show. Meanwhile,
guys, this is a podcast. In case you haven't, in case your ears aren't quite sure what's entering them right now, and as everyone knows, podcasts thrive on reviews, particularly reviews in the Apple podcast store. So, if you haven't done so yet, and thank you very much for all those who have, please take just a second to open that app, or you're probably in the app, but go to the reviews part of the app, go to the show page and leave a review and or a rating. Not telling you what to write or what to put, but those 5-star reviews we really, really, really have a special place in our hearts for.
I am going to tell you what to write and what to put, and you should give us more emoji episode summaries, because we love those brain teasers We got, in case you weren't listening last week, we got the answer to the emoji brain teaser of which Doctor Who story is a tooth, a whiskey tumbler, and a piano. And we were absolutely stumped by that until it was revealed it was the gunfighters. So come along into our reviews and please stump us with some story-based emoji summaries. We do love those.
Yeah. Why don't we start with the Daleks master plan? I don't know what you would put, but I'm really looking forward to it. I think there's probably, how would you even represent a Dalek in emoji? What would you do? I've got an idea.
Yeah, maybe the robot thing.
A robot with an octopus.
Robot with an octopus, or an octopus with a car, since we know now from Genesis of the Daleks that Mark III travel machines. So yeah, an octopus driving a car.
Yeah, totally.
Will give you a Dalek, and then maybe a whiteboard for the master plan.
Right. There you go. Boom, we just did one, guys.
We did one for you. That's for free. If you go to your review service and no one has actually written that yet, you can have it. You can have it. That could be your review. Yeah.
We'll credit you.
Yeah.
We'll get you in the codex.
All right. But we are also giving out a prize for a random review in the first 50 reviews. And Pete has been teasing us about this prize for some time now.
Right. And I've been thinking about nondescript, vague hints I can give about it, other than it's Doctor Who related. And I couldn't really think of any that would give it away, because you kind of in your head, you're always thinking, you get in your own head about these things. I'm giving too much away. So I'd rather if you have any questions about it, Chris.
Yes. Well, we've been
questions
playing
about what
20 questions. And last week we discovered that it is mineral rather than animal or vegetable. So I'm going to say,
be analyzed.
I'm going to say, Pete, is it a new Who prize or a classic Who prize?
I'm going to have to go with new Who on this.
Okay.
Even though it's kind of in both.
Oh, there we go. There's a reveal. That's possibly the most useful information we've received on the prize so far.
Mm-hmm.
We will continue to ask questions until we get to our 50th review and one of you wins this fantastic prize, which is an octopus and a Tesla, clearly.
Well, it just revealed it's not Axonite.
It's not as it was just in the classic show. So sorry, classic show fans. But speaking of the classic show, we've been there a lot, and we do introduce the people of TikTok to classic Doctor Who a lot. And we've had
more people every week.
Another great week on TikTok with how many? We're aiming for 10,000, and we are well on the way.
Yeah, we're experiencing some network effects there, I think. It's been going pretty quickly in terms of more subscribers signing up. So grateful to all of you who are signing up on TikTok. We love sharing the videos there, engaging with everyone in the comments. It's all been really great and positive so far. Last time I think we had over about 6,500, and since then we're really getting close to 7,000. We're not quite there now. Actually, I'm pretty sure by the time you listen to this, we'll be well over 7,000. But we're really, really close to it. Again, we're still aiming for 10K at the rate we're going, hoping to get there in the next month or two, but hopefully sooner. But I promise y'all, we're going to do something special for the TikTok audience exclusively when we get to 10,000. We got some ideas on some stuff we could put up there.
I suggested we do a TikTok dance, but I don't think that's what you're thinking of.
I'm thinking we just up our game there in a couple of different ways. One, not just a one-time thing, but I think up in the TikTok game, because that's such an engaged audience for us. And I also
really
what you said at the beginning. I really like the idea that more and more people that we're showing our discussion to, they're checking out the old show and they find that they really like it.
Yeah, it's attracting new fans, and we are spurring BritBox subscriptions all over the place. So come sponsor us, BritBox. And it's really interesting how much commentary there is. How people get started on a comment, and then they're just insane number of replies. And we seem to be a forum, kind of an accidental forum for discussing new and classic Doctor Who on TikTok.
Totally. I mean, there's theories all over fandom, and some of them are more popular than others. But I like that there's these sort of micro theories that are coming out on various things. Because we like to talk about what makes sense and what doesn't make sense, and we want it all to make sense. And there are ways, and this is kind of what fandom does.
Yes. we are cleaning up Doctor Who with our headcanon as we work our way through it, and we're delighted that you are with us on that journey on TikTok, and also you're helping to retcon us, which is the phrase we've been using for when we're wrong, uh, and you remind us of some other part of Who lore. For instance, we talked about the temporal grace thing in the TARDIS that is supposed to prevent any violent action like there was in Attack of the Cybermen in the TARDIS. And we had a comment to remind us that that was a clever lie, according to the Matt Smith Doctor in Let's Kill Hitler.
Yeah, I suddenly awoken a memory in me because we talked about it, and I just completely forgot that was mentioned, and basically confirmed it was always BS.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because I actually, in sort of doing that video, I actually looked at the scene in The Hand of Fear, and I think it's in keeping with that. In other words, like Eldrad, I don't think ever calls the bluff. At least not explicitly, right? They
Yeah.
she like she it's Eldrad's in female form at the time, and her eyes glow, but it's not really clear, is she actually doing something or is she sort of just getting ready to do something? So it all kind of fits. It works. It was never a real thing. Apparently the Fourth Doctor was just bluffing all along, and I'm going with that. That's good.
It works, and we like that. We actively like being corrected because, in common with many of you listeners, we actually have lives, and I think it's not exactly possible to keep all of Doctor Who in your
Speak
head
for
when you
yourself.
have a life. Well, we also have curtailed. We've talked about this before. We curtailed our Doctor Who watching for the show, so that we're only watching one serial a week, right? Which is actually less than we might do otherwise. So we appreciate you helping us to keep this straight as we continue on our adventure. And there was speaking of viral comments, there was a Robot of Sherwood comment that went viral itself.
Well, the thing that's going viral, which if you're following us on TikTok and you're following the account, what you're going to find is that the video with the most views now is actually the TikTok comment of the week video about another video, which was about the spoon versus sword fight between Robin and the Doctor.
It's TikTok comments all the way down, young man.
TikTok works in mysterious ways, but I just find it's interesting. It always surprises us, Chris, and surprises me certainly. Like what goes viral on TikTok, I can't tell. I just think, we pick whatever we think are the most interesting things we had to say. We introduce a little variety. We make it fun for the TikTok crowd, and then stuff I would say, oh yeah, they're going to get into the Dalek theory here. It's like no, not so much, but the Doctor fighting Robin with the spoon is apparently such a nexus point, if you will, in the show, clearly in New Who for a lot of people, because there's no end to the discussion on that post about what it means narratively, how he could really do it, or whether it was a good moment for the show, a bad one. I mean, please check it out. Give us your opinion. I think it's a good it's a good starting point for what we are all about here on Pull to Open.
Yes, indeed. So, speaking of TikTok comment of the week, we have a new one, and it is to do with Cybermen.
Yeah. So we had kind of a bye week on TikTok, in that when we're recording this, we had a couple of weeks since we had posted our new episode. So now there was a lot of discussion then on the episode we had just done, which was the two episodes we had just done, rather, Genesis of the Daleks and Attack of the Cybermen. And in one of the Cybermen videos, and I believe this is in response to a comment you had said about why the Cybermen in New Who work, and you had a good sort of a wise thing about it being more of an automated process, and that their fear of the Cybermen comes through sort of their sheer numbers, and that they're going to catch you and convert you. This person responded to that, and the comment goes, first of all, the comment is from someone named Clawful Catalyst. Clawful Catalyst. And it says, when I think Cybermen, all I can think of is that music. The most terrifying moments have always been when the Cybermen have stopped and just flaunted. And I like this comment because it's so true. And I thought about it because they've used the Cybermen theme, or that which Murray Gold created for Rise of the Cybermen, but they've used it throughout New Who. It's like one of the only sort of chimes. It's almost a jingle at this point for like
Yeah.
the Cybermen, and they've. I actually I'd have to go back to see Ascension of the Cybermen, but I think they use it. I'm not sure. And it's just been the most consistent thing to signal their menace in a Cyberman episode. And I was reminded of this, and I don't think there's a comparable sort of uh, jingle, or I guess for the lack of a better term, for in any of New Who, other than brief, Doctor specific stuff. I think, but
Right.
nothing has
I
gone
am the
throughout.
Doctor. Yeah, the
Yeah.
Daleks don't really get a theme.
Yeah, they did
Uh,
early on with Eggleston Tennant, but then,
yeah.
it's kind of like that, almost biblical chorus in the background, but then they kind of forgot about it
Yeah.
later
Daleks
on.
themes.
Themes are inferior.
We exterminate thematic influences. But yeah, I like the part of the comment where he says the Cybermen stop and just flaunt.
Yeah.
What they're flaunting is actually they're not moving at all. Like, stop and just be still and flaunt. But now I want them to go, stop, cyber time. Maybe do a little dance.
I like that bit because it's a little it's like they're inadvertently menacing in that sense. They're probably
Yeah,
just doing what's logical, which is to say nothing at any particular time. But
exactly.
it's kind of like when, we're both journalists, right? And one of the things you learn early on, sometimes it's formally taught when you're a journalist, is when you're interviewing someone, a good thing to do is actually be silent.
Yes,
And because people like to fill silences, right?
they
So
do.
it's not like as a journalist, you have a master plan to get something out of someone other than maybe just consciously doing that. But they're thinking your silence might be speaking volumes, when really you're just kind of waiting and hoping
Mm-hmm.
they fill the silence with some intelligent thought.
My dad was a prosecuting lawyer. He used to do that all the time to us as kids because it's what he did at work, right? You just sort of sit silently in a room with the suspect and let them talk. Lawyers do it, journalists do it, therapists do it. I think I'd say journalists do it with a sort of a slight twist, which is when I was at journalism school, we were the Martin Bashir interview on Princess Diana had just happened, and we were told to watch that as sort of an example of how you do journalism, because 90% of his questions are why and how so. And
Right.
those that if you're not listening to the interview that you are conducting and you've forgotten where you are and you just sort of wake up in the middle of the interview, either say why or how so, and you will get an interesting, expansive answer. So, yeah, if I ever do meet any Cybermen, that is what I will say to them when they stop and flaunt, stop their clanking. I'll just look at them and go, how so?
I might ask, whose baby is that?
You would like to delete me? How so? Please
But
explain
thanks
your
so much.
conversion process.
Thank you, Clawful Catalyst, for the comment. It was cool. It was really good to sort of, it's a simple observation, but also very, very true, and got us thinking about the Cybermen and New Who in different ways.
Always good to think about the Cybermen.
If
So,
you are looking for
yeah.
us on TikTok, by the way, feel free to follow us at Pull to Open, all one word.
Indeed. And we're on so many platforms now.
We are. So we've expanded recently in the number of places you can actually download the podcast and listen to it. As I think listeners know, we're on Stitcher, we're on Amazon Music now, a few other places. And there's a new one. We're on Reason.fm, which is a thing. And we were actually asked to go on this by one of our fans. It doesn't tell me who, but basically someone signed us up for it. And it's a platform for podcasts. We claim the podcast. We're there. We're officially there. So it's one more place you guys can check us out. So please do.
Are we also on Unreason FM? I feel like our chaotic fans need more representation.
That's us in the antimatter universe are on Unreason FM. But speaking of Amazon Music, you know what I just discovered, Chris? You know what I just discovered?
What?
Amazon Music has Big Finish audios.
Wow.
For free to listen if you're a paid Amazon Music subscriber.
Ooh.
And I wish someone had told me this months ago, because as I think I've mentioned before, I'm working my way through some of the big finishes, trying to start with the Paul McGann stuff.
And you're buying them.
I've been buying. Well, I mean, I don't mind supporting Big Finish, but I'm also
Sure.
like, I'm already paying for Amazon Music, which presumably has a contract with Big Finish, so it's not like I'm
Mm.
cheating them out of anything.
No,
And
exactly.
I'm just taking advantage of that membership now, and they don't have them all, so obviously I'm going to make my way back to Big
Mm,
Finish.
mm.
Actually, I don't have very many, but they have at least like the first 50 or so that were produced in like the range. So some of that's a mix of Paul McGann as well as when they started out, they were doing previous Doctor Adventures with Peter Davison, Colin Baker, Sylvester McCoy mainly, and so I'm kind of working my way through those, and it's been great.
That's a great
So
tip.
yeah,
Yeah, and it's sort of, I don't know if you've been using the Big Finish app for the ones that you buy,
oh
but it,
yes, yes, absolutely,
yeah, it can be a little. I mean, it's one more app, right? You know, however
yeah.
good it is. But also, I've had various issues. Like it's kind of a bare bones app, so it's nice to know that there's something else you can listen through.
Yeah, Big
Uh,
Finish, I like a lot of what Big Finish does. I think it generally works. Some of it's not as intuitive as I wish it was, because sometimes,
mm,
you add stuff to your collection and it's not clear where it is. I don't know, maybe I just don't quite buy stuff often enough to figure it out. But I remember
mm.
sometimes I'd buy something like, "Where is it?" And it's like, "Oh, I just gotta hit this other button."
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. It's
but
too many steps in the process, so it's nice to know it's somewhere else as well.
yeah, that not really complain. I love Big
Yeah,
Finish. I like what they do. I'm definitely, I'll continue to buy things, certainly stuff that's not available on Amazon. But if you are an Amazon Music subscriber, if you didn't know, this is a great way to find some of those adventures. So enjoy.
yeah.
I even think it's one of the ones I mentioned last week with Nissa and the Fifth Doctor, the mutant phase. I think it's in there. Don't want to overpromise, but if you were looking for that one.
Even though there's a small part of me that would like Big Finish to stop so I could catch up before I'm 80, um,
Mhm.
it would be that would be, it would be churlish not to support them. So please support Big Finish any way you can.
Do it. All right. So speaking of which, speaking of supporting things, speaking of supporting the very show we love, I'm sure everyone who likes Doctor Who was supporting it last week by watching Legend of
Yeah,
the Sea Devils.
yeah.
Right, Chris? Certainly nobody
Who
missed
wouldn't
it.
not watch that and still call
Yeah.
themselves a Who fan? Well, me is the answer. I haven't had a chance to watch it yet. I haven't dared. I
You
got to go
haven't
through
dared.
well, I haven't go through. I got to go through the BBC America app and and watch all the ads that
Oh, you
come
have my
with it. So
sympathies. Yes.
yeah,
I actually
uh,
watched it live on broadcast on BBC America on my cable provider. Yes, I
nice.
actually do subscribe to a cable provider for
Wow,
actual cable TV still.
you're the one.
I'm the one, and actually, it's funny. Like the plan I have now, which I'm actually going to revise soon because I actually want some more sports. But the it has like I specifically got the plan I have because it has BBC America. It has virtually
Right.
nothing else. Like in other words, like in terms of like channels you'd want.
Yeah,
But I was
you can
like, oh, I
support some British
really.
people. Yeah.
I remember getting it years and years ago when I think Capaldi was just brand new. It
Mm,
might have even been during Smith. But I was like, I want BBC America because I want to be able to watch Doctor Who live.
mm.
And
Well, yes.
yeah,
Well, this is an interesting reverse from when I'd seen all of Flux and the Eve of the Daleks and was enthusing about both of them. So Pete, you now get to lord it over me, and also tell me, what did you think? Was it worth watching? I mean,
eh,
obviously it's worth watching. It's Doctor Who, but but was it a particularly good episode for you? Where would you rank it?
uh,
Okay, that's the review I need. Thank you.
yeah, yeah.
Eh.
Where would I place it in Sea Devils episodes I would like to see again?
Yeah.
Third. So
Whoa! Faint praise.
there you go. It's
Yes.
third place. Yeah. Anyway,
I mean, it
there's
looks beautiful, and honestly, I'll watch the Doctor and Yaz and anything at that point. At this point, I feel like, we got a pretty strong TARDIS team at the moment. Um,
yeah.
so
I mean, there's
yeah.
some stuff in it that I think you'll like, given what you just said.
Mm.
So that's there, but it's still not. Kind of wish there was more stuff around that
Yeah,
would have been
but
kind
we
of bad.
have the next special has been announced. Is that
Hmm.
right? I think I saw it briefly. We don't.
Yes, and have you seen have you seen the trailer even?
I've
No?
not.
But
No, there's a
surely
trailer
you're on
for
the
it.
internet, so you are aware of certain, shall we say, returns.
I've somehow managed to avoid it. So
Okay,
so
all
come
right.
come on, spoil me with the return right now.
I
We'll do it live on air.
Well, do you want me to spoil you?
Yeah. I actually like
Well,
being
why don't we
spoiled on some
play?
things.
You guess who's back,
Okay.
and
Well, it's not
you're
the
gonna have to.
Daleks.
Well, this is our new 20 questions, but you can ask 3 today.
Okay, I'm not going to ask about the Daleks. Clearly not that, and definitely not the Sea Devils, because of course I was going to ask that. So I'm going to guess: is it the Master?
Think playing cards.
Playing cards. Wow.
That's my hint.
The Queen of Hearts, clearly. Has never
Hmm.
been in Doctor Who. No, who's back? I don't
There's a
know.
card that beats other cards in most card games.
Ace!
So,
Ace!
hello.
Oh my goodness. Wow. That's an interesting way to bring the classic fans back.
And there's another. There's actually
Ooh.
2
Ooh.
returns.
Ooh.
And I won't tell you the other one. I'll let
Okay.
you. I'll let you find out. But it's good times.
All right. See, this has got me excited to watch the trailer now and maybe watch Sea
You should watch
Devils
the
too.
trailer, man.
Yeah. I should.
Things
You
are
know what?
happening.
I'm kind of just burned out on trailers in general. We have so many trailers
Well, you
in this
are
world.
certainly not nearly as burned out as our audience is now about the trailer for what we're supposed to really be talking about, which this wasn't really.
Yes.
It was just,
Yeah.
which is to say, we should get to the business of
the Eaters of Light.
to open the Eaters of Light, Series 10, Episode 10, and as we do every week, every time we attack an old episode or any new episode. Any episode, we do a segment we like to call TLDW, Too Long Didn't Watch, Too Long Doctor Who, and where one of us summarizes the plot of the episode of the week in record time. And this week it is you, Chris.
Yeah, my stalling didn't work, did it?
I saw through your evil plan.
God, tell me about the trailer. Tell me 20 things about the trailer.
What if your evil plot had succeeded, Chris? If your evil plot had succeeded, we'd still be talking about the trailer to the next episode. But no, we have to carry on. We have to do this. Yes, so we allot for TLDW. We allot 30 seconds for every 25-minute episode of the classic series, which translates into a full minute for most episodes of the new series.
Right.
And this is a new series episode, The Eaters of Light. And so you get a full minute to summarize it.
Yep. All right. That doesn't sound like a lot of time, right? Compared with we've been doing a number of classic episodes, so it's so weird to go back to this single minute thing.
It's never enough time, and there are so many rabbit holes in any episode, and in this one there are some literal ones. So
I tell you what I'm not going to do is I'm not going to talk about the cold open. That has been a rabbit hole for us in the past. So luckily the cold open in this one in the Eaters of Light has nothing to do with the rest of the show, so I will not be mentioning it at all.
Skip it. Just
skip it.
Boom.
Okay.
Love it. All right. So here we are doing this. We're doing the official pull to open summary of the Eaters of Light in 3, 2, 1, go.
Okay, so the Doctor, Bill, and Nardole land in 2nd century Scotland. Nardole's like, why aren't we guarding the vault? The Doctor and Bill, like, they have to resolve this question about the Roman Ninth Legion that disappeared in Scotland. They go off looking for the Ninth Legion. Bill goes off by herself and finds this Pict who attacks her, and she runs away, and she falls into the hands of the survivors of the Ninth Legion, who've been killed by some sort of weird extra-dimensional creature that came through the can, the Ring of Stones that the Doctor and Nardole find, and they get in with the Picts, and Bill gets in with the remainders of the Ninth Legion, and the Doctor goes into the portal and finds that this Eater of Light thing has come out and attacked the Ninth Legion and killed them, and it needs to be sent back, and there need to be volunteers, and the Picts and the Ninth Legion all come together in the same hut, and they actually volunteer to stop the Doctor. Doctor wants to go and sort of spend the rest of his life defending against this Eater of Light thing, and but they say, no, we'll do it. And I didn't get to Missy.
That's all good.
And there's a coda with Missy and the TARDIS.
There's a coda, yes. It's not really part of the story, so I think you get a get out of jail free card on that.
Whew.
Good stuff, man.
Just about.
You just got it, like maybe an extra second or two. So that was good.
Yeah, that's tough because there is actually more to this. Like we didn't get, Bill getting attacked by the Eater of Light, and what else didn't we get? I guess it is a pretty simple plot.
It's
Just
fairly
kind of
simple.
nice.
I think
Yeah.
I think the best parts of it are obviously not the plot and, like, sort of those, you kinda wanna stretch out in some of the rabbit holes, which aren't really rabbit holes, it's just sort of the exploration of like, I thought one of the better moments was, like, Bill exploring, or just having the conversation with the Romans about, sexual
Yeah.
orientation and sort
Yeah.
of her being a little
Bisexuality
bit
is perfectly normal to them.
yeah, like, her being a little steeling herself, thinking they wouldn't understand
Mm.
that or they'd be primitive, but then they realizing, "Oh, actually, they're ancient Romans tend to actually more cosmopolitan than you
Yeah.
think," which I believe is fairly historically accurate. It's probably an extrapolation from various things, but,
Yeah,
um
it was the influence of the ancient Greeks and Hellenic
right.
civilization, which was much more enlightened in terms of just anyone can love anyone. Um, and yeah, it's not a stretch to think that a legionnaire might be like, oh, you only like women, that's cool. That's like Vitus over here, and he only likes dudes, and but not you
Which
because you're not handsome enough.
yeah, which is good. I
Yeah.
like that as sort of having your priorities straight as a legionnaire as well. Like, okay, really
Yeah.
doesn't matter what this guy's into. What matters is, does he have my back? And are we a
Yes.
team here? And are we fighting together? And that's if that's taken care of, then everything else is just detail.
Yeah, it's a good episode for Bill. She gets a
Yes.
fair amount of agency. She does do the classic Who thing of like companion wanders off. Why does the Doctor let them do that? Why? It never ends well. He should at least shout over their shoulder, like, text me every 5 minutes. Let me know you're okay. Um, Something
Yeah.
like that.
I,
But no,
yeah.
no, she
Right
just
after
wanders
that,
off.
I feel like there's just just some general philosophy on the doctor's part that everyone gets into trouble and 99 times out of 100, I'll get us out,
Yes.
whatever happens. So
It
that's kind of obvious, but
It does
the
work out. I mean, he does get like the story wouldn't have worked as well if he didn't actually find the Ninth Legion, and he wouldn't have actually found them. I mean, he found the dead bodies of the majority
mm,
of the Legion, um, but they need the combined forces to come up at the end. So everything turned out okay, and maybe the Doctor just knew that it would.
well, we
Um,
certainly knew that it would. Even though,
yes,
like, did you buy it for a second that the doctor was really gonna go into that portal for all eternity and just keep regenerating and keep this thing at bay?
yeah. Yeah, no, no. I mean, it's nice that he offered. I do like it when the Doctor thinks about that. Like, oh, you puny humans, I have multiple lifespans. I can, see as I sacrifice them all.
Hmm.
You only have one lifespan to sacrifice. It was good, and I bought it. It was very Capaldi-esque that he would offer to do that. But of course, yeah, they can't let him do that. It was always going to end that way, which is kind of nice when you get a story that ends the way you're like, oh yeah, this makes sense, this fits, this works.
It does. Well, two things. One, yeah, I didn't really buy it, but the I feel like the person who steps up to make the sacrifice so the doctor doesn't have to is kind of a thing that's been happening a little too much in New Who.
Mm-hmm.
Specifically the Whittaker era, I have to say. Like there were two recent glaring ones, and one of them being the Timeless Children, where old dude from I forget the planet's name, but comes in to sacrifice himself so she doesn't have
Oh
to.
yeah, guy from
Um,
Derry Girls. Yeah.
yeah, there's another
Mm-hmm.
one. There's a few of these all over New, even back if you go think all the way back to Sontaran Stratagem. There's the sort of Larry Page type character who sort of
Yes.
comes in at the end to kill the Sontaran ship. So this happens, in my view. The Doctor shouldn't be that okay with it. You know what I mean? Like I feel like it's a little like we're okay with it as people watching the show, but I feel like he's constantly robbed of this chance.
Yeah.
The
Well,
second
he
thing
gets physically knocked out by Bill in this instance to prevent him from sacrificing himself.
right, right, and it's fair enough. But there's also just the physics of it, or what exactly is happening because they go in to fight these things, right? And
Mm,
we might as well start at the end, right? So they go in to fight
mm.
these things so that they don't come in and destroy our entire existence, which is kind of unnecessarily raising the stakes to
Yeah.
an absurd degree, in my view. But what happens? Like, I guess the portal breaks because too many of them went through, and so does that just eliminate the threat entirely? Do they even have to fight? Like, what's exactly like? How is this resolved physically? It's not really clear to me.
Yeah, it's not clear. So the Doctor goes in. This is one thing I forgot to mention in the TLDW. The Doctor goes into the portal and comes out, and like 2 days have passed, but only a few minutes have passed for him.
Not even a few minutes. It's more like seconds, right?
Seconds, yeah, barely a minute has passed for him, depending on how much we see of it on screen.
Right.
But 2 days have passed. So his point is like their lifespans are nothing. He can go in and save them forever, and they're like, no, all of us will go in. But it's not entirely clear how multiple humans equals multiple human lifespans
Especially if they all
serially.
go in at the same time or roughly the
Yes,
same time.
yeah.
Yeah.
I
So
mean, I guess if they sort of do go in a little bit one by one, so that might stretch it out somewhat.
I mean,
Uh,
but if time slows down there,
hmm,
wouldn't like this is why they have to go in every 60 years or so
right,
to, so if they go in right away, like it's been, no time at all, like virtually none in the internal, into the rift or portal or whatever it's called.
right.
So yeah, I like don't get me wrong, I love the idea of time dilation. And I actually recently watched Interstellar,
Oh
which
yeah,
really talk,
classic.
such a interesting movie, whatever you love it or hate it, like the time dilation stuff is really thought about.
Yeah,
So
you
I
really feel the peril of it, and it's really explained very precisely
yeah,
how
and
it works
I
in the
really
movie.
like it when Doctor Who can play with this because they can even have more leeway, obviously, with the
Hmm.
universe they have. So things like when the Doctor returns Rose to Earth a year after he picked her up, etc., and they actually deal with the consequences of that. Here, I just feel like it's put in as an interesting thing, but it's never really um, used to its full potential as a plot device.
Yes.
So it's a bit of a missed opportunity.
Yeah, it's a shame. A few lines of dialogue would have fixed that. And it's not like the writer is new to Who, because the writer on this is
Hmm.
Rona Munro, who wrote, and this may be one of the first reasons why the randomizer took us here, Pete, is that you remember we got a comment the other week that said that they were looking to the forward to the last episode, and we figured out they probably meant Survival, which was the last story of Classic Who.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
and so maybe the randomizer was aiming for Survival and hit The Eaters of Light by the same writer instead.
Wow, that's a very randomizer thing to do.
Right?
Yes, that makes sense to me.
Right?
I like that. I'm not even going to say mine because now it just sounds stupid why the randomizer brought us there. But yeah, uh,
Well,
I think
the
she's still the only person who wrote for both versions of the show. I could be wrong.
yes, and unfortunately had really low ratings for both, which is yeah,
Right.
it's not great.
Yeah.
Uh,
So Eaters of Light is apparently the lowest rated episode of Doctor Who ever.
yeah,
That is until actually Legend of the Sea Devils,
yeah.
which was just a smidge lower.
In terms of the
Uh,
overnight ratings,
yeah,
we
at
don't
least,
yet know
yeah,
the full ratings.
exactly. So that's unfortunate. But I get it. I got to say, I get it. Just because part of it is our reaction to this one when we
Hmm.
found out we were coming here. I barely remembered it. Um, it's also in structure. It's remarkably similar to the episode that immediately precedes it, which is
Oh yeah.
Empress of Mars, which has sort of groups of people banding together against an enemy. It has caves. It has sort of militaristic overtones to it. It's very like, in other words, like they're so similar. I had trouble thinking about which one
Hmm.
was which and which scenes came from which episode.
They do
Um,
feel like a duology, don't they? And then there's a lot of reference to the last one. There's a reference to the fact that Nardole wants us to get back to the vault now, but he didn't want to leave Mars. He was interested in Mars, but he's not interested in Scotland. Um,
mm,
yes. By the way,
well,
this is an extremely Scottish episode of Doctor Who, which means I'm going to foist my Scottish accent on you. Um, but Scotland, I mean, you think how Doctor Who is a very Scottish show,
right,
and
yeah,
Eaters of Light made me realize this because I was thinking back to like just all through the Doctor's longest running companion, Jamie McCrinnan,
mhm.
was from Scotland and the Highlanders, and I guess that was the last time we went to Scotland before this, or at least Scottish history before this. But
Maybe, yeah, but this is extremely Scottish. I mean, first of all, let me unpack your comment for a bit. Why do you
mhm.
think? And I think I know the answer to this, but why do you think Doctor Who is such a Scottish show?
Well, first of all, the connections to Scotland. We've had two Scottish doctors.
Right.
We've had, Amy is very Scottish, and we have Moffat,
Are you counting?
obviously,
Wait a minute. Who are you counting as the two Scottish doctors, by the way? Just so we're clear.
McCoy
Right. Yes. Okay. Just wanted to
and
make sure.
Capaldi.
Yes. Even though
Yeah,
Tennant is technically
Tennant
Scott.
is technically, but he's a traitor.
The doctor isn't. No. Yeah.
He's
Doctor.
a traitor. He's gone all Cockney. He's gone
Yeah.
all Mary Poppins, which is why they reference him as Dick Van Dyke in Day of the Doctor. Yeah, so there's that. There's sort of those hidden connections, right? It's also very Scottish because it's set in lots of grey skies, and that's actually a reference here. Nardole has a lot of good Scottish references in this episode, and one of them is the idea that the Eater of Light like sucks the sunlight out of people, and he
Right.
says, "Oh yeah, death by Scotland." So, and it also just
Yeah.
feels very Scottish. It's about a traveling man, and the Scottish do love to travel all over the world, and that's one thing they're known for, getting the hell out of Scotland. As the Doctor is the Doctor's mostly a cranky old man for most of his
Yeah.
tenure.
Well,
With very Scottish names. I mean, William Hartnell. He sounds like some Scottish laird. And
well, I gotta say,
Patrick
in this
Troughton, lots of trout in there
for sure.
in Loch Ness. Yeah.
By the way, I think your accent's much better than Martle's, which he tried, I think, for a second in this. Um, but yeah, I gotta say, I think this being Capaldi's last season, but
Mm.
also Stephen Moffat, speaking of cross Scottish people, Scottish Scots, cross Scots, Capaldi
Hmm.
and Moffat being the last. I think they just let it rip in this
They
last
did.
season. You know what I mean? Not just in this episode, this one in particular. Let's get all our Scottish jonesing out right here, but also like throughout this season, there are Scottish jokes and just the general behavior of Capaldi. I think he really hits his stride fully here in this season, where he's kind of still got those undertones of his initial persona of being cross and alien, but that the warmth that Bill in particular brings out of him
Mm.
is there, and it's a very good balance. Where it's in other words, it's more appealing and affable as opposed to his early episodes where it was just seemed alien and off-putting.
Yes. Well, of course. Speaking of Scottish, we had that moment in Deep Breath where it is revealed that Capaldi
Mm,
is going to be a Scottish Doctor who talks Scottish. And of course, this references the theory that I have that the Doctor is influenced by the last person he spoke to before his regeneration.
right.
Where he will adopt their accent, and Amy was the last person who the Matt Smith Doctor saw, at least in vision form, and so decides to adopt her accent. But it did feel with I'm Scottish, I can complain about things. Like this was like if there was a Moffat master plan, it was to make Doctor Who more Scottish, right? He's there to very slowly, increase the Scottish representation in the show. And then this is final season. And in this, his penultimate story, he's just kind of
Mhm.
going for it.
Yeah.
And do you know the great irony of this? Is
Tell me.
that so this episode deals with the mystery of the Ninth Legion, right? The
Right.
Ninth Roman Legion, which disappeared. There was a movie that Bill actually references having seen a movie and read a book,
Hmm.
and chances are that she's talking about the Eagle,
Okay.
which actually there were two movies in the 2010s, two major movies to reference the Ninth Legion. One was the Eagle, and the other one was Centurion. And
Okay.
so you have people as varied as Channing Tatum. I wonder if she's seen Centurion, by the way, because interesting Doctor Who note: Noel Clarke is in it. So
Oh,
if she
interesting.
is referencing seeing that, then she's seen a guy who looks remarkably like Mickey Smith on screen. Um, But yeah, so the Eagle was based on a 1950s novel about the Ninth Legion, which sort of popularized this notion that the Ninth Legion had gone missing in Scotland, which is actually,
Right.
so far as we know, not true.
Oh my! But they
Yeah,
did go missing.
they did go missing.
Just not
Well,
in
they
Scotland.
didn't. They didn't actually go missing.
Oh
It's just
what?
that we sort of, um, this is the popularity. So it was a 1954 novel, The Eagle of the Ninth. The Legion is said to have marched into Caledonia, which is what Scotland used to be called, and
Okay.
was never heard of again. However, we now have inscriptions of the Ninth Legion, or the Ninth Spanish Legion, to give them their full title,
Okay.
that they were in the Netherlands. There's a legionary base in the Netherlands after their supposed death in Britain.
Oh wow! So they just said,
And
"Screw this. Let's get on a
yeah,
trireme and zip
yeah,
over to the
it,
mainland."
it may have been just a detachment of the Legion. It may not have been the whole Legion. But this is the problem with history. And this is why,
Mm.
it is totally reasonable and rational that the Doctor would just go swanning about in Earth history, because there's so many mysteries to unlock and so little written evidence to go on.
Hmm.
And this is certainly the case of that. But yeah, the Ninth Legion was supposed to have gone missing in Scotland, but they couldn't. We don't think that. Historians don't think that anymore. So the Doctor is a bit out of date.
Hmm.
Bill is a bit out of date, and it's sort of weird. I'm
I
sure
would
that.
have I would have liked to see kind of a bit where Bill says something like, "Oh, I'll bet it's just like my book or what my book says happened." And
Mm,
the doctor said that actually never. And then he would stop himself, remembering like Robot of Sherwood. Actually, never mind. You know what I mean? Like actually, sometimes the storybooks are right. Like story,
yes.
that would be pretty funny. Because I that's this is another time where he's like taking a companion back to check out a historical thing. And
Yep.
we so recently did Robot of Sherwood. I was thinking it would have been it would have been fun to have them make that connection, but they didn't bother.
Indeed. So the Ninth Legion definitely participated in the invasion of Caledonia.
Okay.
Um, Much more interesting. Like there was a lot of fighting. They were definitely ambushed by the Caledonians, who I'm not sure were called Picts back then, even though the show describes them as Picts. The
Hmm.
last time we find them in Britain is at York, which is much further
The
south.
Ninth Legion, you mean?
Yes, exactly.
Oh,
That's
wow.
the last activity that they were. Their activity there was recorded on a stone tablet, which was discovered in the 19th century. Um,
Okay.
but it's actually there would have been a much more interesting time to drop in on the Ninth Legion, and that would be when they were fighting Boudica, or Boadicea, as she used to be known, the famous British leader who kind of was very successful in her campaign against the Roman invasion and had a rebellion in 61.
Okay.
And they tried to besiege Colchester, which was a huge Roman city, a huge center of Roman um, activity, and were all but massacred by Boadicea's forces in the year 61, and with only
Well,
the cavalry from the Legion escaping.
those sieges are tough, man.
Yeah.
They're if you don't have one of those big horses and the people inside are a little bit savvy, even if you do,
Yeah.
you're out of luck probably a lot of the time.
But whatever
Yeah.
happened there, we know that the Legion was reformed after it. They just got some fresh
Mhm.
recruits, and they just kept on keeping on.
Conscripted some of the
Um,
locals.
yeah, yeah. Well, that is how the Romans
Yeah.
operated, right? They
Sure.
they absorbed local cultures. They said, "Hey, your gods are now our gods. Your god, big guy in sky, is now called Jupiter." And everyone's like, "Well, cool, I guess." And they got absorbed that way. So, except for the Caledonians, because
Yeah.
of course Hadrian's
Skull,
Wall,
man.
Scotland. They were pushed beyond Scotland, up in Scotland, and never gave up.
So there's less of
So
a mystery than is let on here, I guess. And then,
yes,
but I guess how do we reconcile that? Do we say that those other oddities that you mentioned were just parts of the Ninth Legion, maybe, and then the bulk of it still went to Caledonia and got massacred by weird tentacle light things, light eating monsters.
Yeah, but then reformed, I guess, or an attachment escaped
Or
before.
yeah, someone in a very clever ruse decided to adopt the identity of the Ninth Legion, perhaps
Mm-hmm.
knowing um, knowing that they were, maybe something was passed on from the survivors here that they'd all been massacred, and so then people just saw the opportunity, like, oh, I can pretend I'm
Maybe
the Ninth Legion.
maybe the Doctor himself or herself at some point decides to
Yeah,
uh, reform or accidentally ends up reforming the Ninth Legion.
yeah.
And that's maybe that's a future show or a big finish.
Yeah, maybe it's a thing where it's like she mentions just to some Romans wandering around, the Ninth Legion. It's not what year is it? Okay, it's not being used. You can use that one.
Yeah.
No, you go ahead. Say you're the
Or
Ninth Legion.
maybe we just like Jodie's in the TARDIS. She's like reading through history. She's like reading the latest historical papers because I'm sure that the Doctor subscribes to lots of special interest historical magazines to figure out where to go next. Reads a paper on like, oh hey, the Ninth Legion survived. Realizes, oh crap, this is a paradox. I've got to go
Yeah,
reform the Ninth Legion. The Big Finish adventure writes itself.
boom, love it. Hey, I was wondering, what did you like about? Did you like the crow stuff?
Yeah,
That
so that's interesting. I didn't
yeah,
mention that it's sort of wrapped up with the cold open, which I should reveal for those of you who've forgotten that the cold open is just a young girl in modern day Britain runs up to the cairn, the circle of stones, and there's a crow that starts yelling "Doctor" as we see the TARDIS is inscribed on the stones, and that's the cold open.
yeah. I gotta
Um,
say, like, it's probably one of the worst cold opens in that it doesn't really do the job. Yeah,
yeah.
it's kind of like the outline of a cold open. You're kind of
Mm.
giving these hints that there's some kind of danger or something, but nothing is ever really stated or made clear. There's no stakes. It's just like, hey, girl goes to thing, other kid makes some mention of ghost legend, pan down to TARDIS inscription on stone, cut to credits. Like, okay, that's a little something, but you got to give me a little
Yeah.
more there to be really like, OMG, I need to be still tuned to this program by the time these credits are done. If I'm just a casual viewer.
Yeah, Stephen Moffat's test for always for that was like, imagine I'm a viewer and I've got a date with someone really hot, and the date starts now.
Mhm.
Like I have to set off during the show what is going to make me sit in front of the screen, what's going to make me stay there, even though I've got a date. Um, and
Yeah, it
not
just
sure
doesn't
this
do
does
it.
it. It
Doesn't do
doesn't
it at
do it.
all.
It did remind me of the beginning of the Pandorica opens, right, where you got Van Gogh going mad, and turns out he's painted picture of the TARDIS kind of exploding all over the place. Right,
Mm,
the stakes in that are immediately clear. Like
yeah,
first of all, we know Van Gogh from the previous episode. We care about him. But also like the TARDIS is being destroyed. It's not just randomly etched in stone.
yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Uh,
there's any number of
Being
ones.
intact.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
you want those stakes, you want the urgency. It's just not really here. And I gotta say, this might be a little just me, but I'm as a human, I'm fairly trained to kind of not listen closely to the utterances of animals. Okay, so maybe I didn't have enough pets growing up or encounter other, but I didn't even get that the crow was saying doctor.
Doctor. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's
It's
kinda like it's just making noise, you're a crow, you're making noises that sort of sound like doctor, I guess,
mm,
maybe in hindsight, but it didn't even click in me. Um, and
yeah. So the crow story, spoiler alert, is that the leader of the Picts is called Ka, and crows can actually talk. They actually talk to all humans until this point, where they are so desirous of us remembering Ka that they will just repeat her name for all eternity. And crows are not just grumpy, as the doctor said. He's wrong. The crows are not Scottish. They're just repeating her name.
well,
Just
Scottish bias.
yeah, exactly,
But
totally.
I just, like, again, I don't wanna zero in too much on the crow thing because it's just kind of cute window dressing to the episode, but
Mm.
it is one of those things if you do stop and think about it for a second, well, wait a minute, like, are you serious? Crows can talk and are intelligent beings, and, he said this about other animals before and various other things. I mean, it's funny, it's interesting, I mean, it's in a story building kinda sense,
Mm.
but I prefer to think of this more as just he is being funny in the same way he speaks baby,
Yeah.
and all the utterances of the crows. And again, it doesn't quite work here because it's a little too much tied to the story. But I feel like you can write it off as like it's all just coincidence, and
Mm.
everyone here is just reading too much into what crows are saying or doing at any particular time. I mean, I don't know. Maybe this is me to take a step back again, finding that dividing line between fans in the same way either you take he's fighting Robin Hood seriously with a spoon or you don't, or you take crows can actually talk and are intelligent beings seriously or you don't. And I'd prefer to not. I'd prefer to be on the don't
Mm.
side. Like that's a little it's a little too much to think that the crows are all smart and just trying to honor someone and are actually like
Yeah.
this intelligent race on earth because it just opens up too many questions and holes in
I'm
other
not.
things.
I'm not too annoyed by that. Big fan of Douglas Adams, and thinking of the mice and the dolphins. This definitely seems like it's along those lines, right? That there are more intelligent species than us. They just sort of choose to hide it. I like that idea, and crows
Yeah.
definitely a good candidate for that.
Well, I'm kinda like this is why I'm saying, like, you get out of the show what you want to, right? Like,
Mm.
I'm not gonna sit and argue in a screaming match with someone who wants to believe that the crows are, in the Doctor Who universe, intelligent beings.
Yeah.
Go ahead and
Wrong,
believe that. I'm
wrong,
just going to,
wrong.
in what I think constitutes Doctor Who and good Doctor Who, I'm going to believe in my Doctor universe that this is all just kinda made up.
Well, right. No, I like it. I'll take it as canon. I mean, crows appear, although we do have to then go to any other appearances of crows in Doctor Who, which maybe our listeners can write in and tell us any other time that Crow has featured. Um, but
Yeah.
I also like it as an aide de memoir and a sort of a marker point of where we are in cultural history, because this was broadcast in 2017, and this was prime Game of Thrones time, right?
True.
And that's the other thing about this episode. It feels very much like Doctor Who responding to Game of Thrones. Like it has
Interesting.
that
Yeah.
kind of sort of the same look,
Mhm.
same sort of washed out look, the same sort of epic sweep of the landscape, and the crows slash
Mhm.
ravens. The one phrase when I'm 96 and I cannot remember anything else about Game of Thrones, I will still remember the Rose Leslie saying the line "Shut it, crow," which I actually do say to crows now. Anytime I see one, and we do have
Do
a
you
lot
see them?
around me here.
Oh,
Well, here
interesting.
in the Bay Area, we actually have a family of crows like right outside my window, and they often harass hawks. So crows are assholes.
Yeah.
I get to see this a lot, and so that they'll sit and just sort of caw at you for no reason, as crows do, and I like to let them have their say, and then just go, "Shut it, crow."
But everything you said about the Game of Thrones era of Doctor Who really
Mm,
rings true. Obviously, the previous season had Maisie Williams, and
mm.
that was a huge influence as well. They also had Face the Raven. If you think about it, like there's
Yes,
this sudden
indeed.
obsession with birds and this kind of imagery. There's a lot of caves. It's particularly in this one. You have the war paint on all over
Mm.
the on the Picts and the Roman Legion. I mean, it's all there, right? Swords and not quite sandals, but haggis, I guess in this case.
And bagpipes,
Right.
which is so. We should mention we should get into the Missy
Sure.
coda to the story. So it turns out they get back to the TARDIS. Missy has been there all along. She's been doing essential maintenance on the engines, and she's bio locked out of the controls, which is,
hmm
I don't know how the Doctor didn't think the Master wasn't going to get around that. Um,
Hmm.
but
Well,
but
there's sort
she
of precedent for the Master not being able to get through TARDIS
yeah.
limitations that the Doctor can, like the paradox machine and Sound of Drums and all
Ah,
the things they do there. So like they can't the Master can't
yeah,
actually go
yeah,
outside of the two time zones in the
yeah.
TARDIS. So.
But it turns out that Missy has been watching the whole adventure and is pretending to not be affected. But when she hears the music, so part of the plot is that the music will always play through this portal, right? You will always, if you go near the stones, you will still to this day hear the haunting sounds of the Picts and the Ninth Legion as they, defend through the rest of the time against the Eaters of Light, whatever. But the music is bagpipes, and I don't know how you feel about bagpipes, Pete, but in a way, it is fitting that the one kind of music that would make this diabolically evil person cry and think is so sweet is bagpipes. But I think you have to deal with the fact that bagpipes are sort of famously bad as an instrument, right? As a form of music. They are an acquired taste. I don't want to offend our Scottish listeners any more than I already have with my attempt at an accent. I should say that I'm a Geordie, by the way. I was brought up in the northeast of England, and the jocks and the Geordies, they call it, the intense cross-border rivalry has existed for centuries. So
you're a Geordie, I'm a Data.
Yeah. Well, I'm also a Scouser. I'm also like Dan.
Hey, speaking of good bagpipes in science fiction, though, Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan is probably what sort of persuaded me that bagpipes are actually okay. But I think bagpipes are only good in sort of those super dramatic life or death things, which I guess this is. It's just it never quite feels that way because of the way sort of the forgettableness of the episode. By the way, when were bagpipes first invented? Or is second century? Would that even work?
Oh God! I mean, that sounds doable.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know.
By the way, let's Google it while I say that the reason that they sound good in Star Trek: Wrath of Khan is that we have actually perfected bagpipes by the 24th century.
Finally. So apparently they've been around since 1000 BC. So that's entirely accurate. That if they had bagpipes in 120 AD, I think it is, right? So all good there. Checks out, Stephen Moffat.
And it may even have distracted the Ninth Legion enough to have them be killed by the Eater of Light.
Yeah, I'll go with that. So speaking of the sacrifice, speaking of the battle, can we talk about the monster?
Yes.
And just kind of how forgettable it is. Again, along with everything else in this episode, it just seems like generic Doctor Who monster thing that I forget quite what's in the portal, but it looks like there's all these creatures floating around the thing, and if they come out, they're going to eat all the light, which means to say the stars. And as I alluded to earlier, it just seems like a really. Did you really have to make it threatening the entire space-time continuum? Were those stakes really necessary here? I feel like if you do that too often, then it just sounds like nonsense every time. And I think it does sound like nonsense here. Plus the monsters themselves, I guess they're just animals that do this, which is fine, but it's also like there's no like real evil plot. The design isn't that great. And even what they do to people, again, they show the Legion that was slaughtered, but Bill makes out pretty well. Like no one is caught in. To my knowledge, I'd have to remember the episode, but no, I don't remember anything really horrific happening to someone on screen.
No. Bill gets hit in the shoulder, I believe, but there's nobody dies on screen in this episode, right? Which is something the randomizer's been interested in lately. Also, the randomizer took us straight here from Terminus, which is another sort of that escalated quickly moment of the whole universe is in danger now, because of if you didn't listen to the Terminus episode, that casually throws in the Big Bang, the cause of the Big Bang, and the potential death of the universe from one ship that happens to be sitting in the middle of the universe. So I guess this is sort of the equivalent of that. It's like, it's going to get out. It's going to eat all of you Picts and Scots, and wait, it's going to eat everyone. It's going to eat the Earth. It's going to eat the sun. It's going to eat the universe. What? That escalated quickly.
Back up. Hold on. And I gotta say, like, you just don't never quite feel it as much as it's
Mm,
talked about because the one thing I would compare this to, which didn't unnecessarily raise the stakes that much, was Planet of the Dead, when
mm,
the Doctor and Lady Christina and everybody else goes to this planet, and they slowly work out this dead planet they're on actually used to be a thriving civilization that was essentially eaten by these weird sort of manta ray bug thing. I forget exactly what they look like, but I remember that the idea of that being very kind of scary because obviously their next
mm.
target was going to be Earth, and they just seemed like this unstoppable force. And the way they expressed that, it worked. And here, even though the stakes are higher, even and it's a very similar type of thing the monster's doing. I just comparably, I'm just like I had real trouble caring. So
Yeah,
yeah,
it's another one of those cases where you're like, Doctor Who's invented so many monsters over the years. Please just reuse one
yeah.
instead of making up something new from scratch. You could still just give this thing a different name, and that would give us as old school fans something to hang on to, some connection to draw. Um, and why not, right? Why not just at least build this stuff up a little bit?
By
But
the way,
speaking,
do
go
they
ahead.
ever explain why the portal was created in the first place? Like how this happened?
They don't, and
Yeah.
and maybe that's the answer to the Clara Splinter question. Is
Oh. Oh yeah. Let's
yes,
get there. Where's Clara
we,
in this whole
yeah. So
mess?
so long
What?
time listeners know that Clara, we treat the Clara Splinter as as seen in the Name of the Doctor, where she goes through that the Doctor's entire timeline. We treat that as a plot hole cleaner upper. And in this case, I think that this Clara Splinter was a Pict who lived many years earlier and helped to seal the the Eater of Light and the Stones when it first came through.
Hmm.
I guess
Okay.
there's some sort of mention about how they've done that in the past, but it's not explained. So yeah, that's the biggest plot hole that you can clean up.
Yeah, I was with you there too.
Mm,
She had something to do with the original Rift, or was like maybe the first person to fight these things.
yeah.
The only other thing I have is that she kept it overcast somehow with like smoke signals, I guess, as a local Pict, and
Yeah.
making sure that the creature could not revive itself from solar energy. So one or the
Yes.
other. Maybe
Death
a
by
blanket.
Scotland. As anyone who's ever lived in Scotland, as I have knows, the way to ensure a grey day is to constantly talk about how sunny and nice it was supposed to be in the forecast,
Yeah.
and you're not carrying an umbrella and you're not carrying a big coat. So yeah, Clara could just this version of Clara could just go around the entire time
So
and talk
yeah.
optimistically about the weather.
So I've been probably not super fair to this episode and been picking at it a bit. I'd really like to take some time to talk about what I really liked about this episode,
Hmm.
and one of them is Bill. I really like Bill. I mean, there's not really many episodes where I don't like her. I think she is one of the better companions of the new series. Certainly in my top three, I would say,
Yeah,
and I really like. Her approach to things. I also like that she really kind of learns as she goes. She evolves, and this being kind of her penultimate adventure, unless you
mm,
count twice upon a time, but regardless, it's toward the ends of her run,
yeah,
and she's really coming into her own as a very doctor-like companion. Like she's a fully formed companion now, in the way that she talks to the Legionnaires in the cave, and she talks about them being scared and that being human, and just her overall the way she ends her speech, which is very doctor-like. And she
yeah,
says, like, "Look, I can't guarantee you're going to be okay, or we're all going to make it out of this, but I can guarantee if you come with me, you're not going to die in a cave." Like, and
yeah,
I really like that. Like, that's just such a good. Like she's a leader. She's stepped up and become a leader of these people, and it seems right for that character. It seems right for that character in her journey, and it's one of
yeah.
the sort of few moments where you're kind of standing up and cheering. So, like, go Pearl Mackie and go Bill.
And it's such a nice contrast from Clara, right? Her
Hmm.
predecessor, who, and we talked about this when we went to Face the Raven, and again when we went to Hell Bent, that Clara's problem was that she became too doctorish in an
Right.
arrogant way, right? And what you're talking about is a companion becoming the good kind of doctorish,
Yeah.
and ending up leading the locals, as she says about the Doctor. What
He's
I
always
love
in
about
charge.
Bill, she is so perspicacious. She so gets, not just the Doctor's bullshit, but also like how these adventures work, how the TARDIS works. She points out flaws like the chairs being far away from the console. We were just at Smile recently, and we have to say this is the randomizer's favorite season, right? In
Yes.
terms of we've covered. I looked at we've covered 50% of this season, which
Oh
is
wow.
huge,
Yeah.
considering we're less than 25% of the way into our random adventure as a whole. Like there's something about season 10 that the randomizer
Mhm.
just can't get enough of. And it may be Bill. It may be the fact that she instantly, she did a lot of it in Smile. She understood things about the Doctor she didn't understand. He doesn't understand himself, like why he keeps the TARDIS in the form of a police box. Here, she understands that the TARDIS translates for you, and
Yeah.
she calls it auto translate, which is a wonderful updating.
Yep.
And notes that the TARDIS even does lip sync,
Right.
which
Which
is the kind of thing that
yeah.
we as Who fans have been noticing from our couches for years and saying as jokes to each other. And here it is in the show. It is now canon. The TARDIS lip syncs.
Yeah, it's finally said out loud, which was cool. I think
Mm.
this is the first mention of actually I could be wrong, so correct me, fans, if I'm wrong. But yeah, it's the first time someone notices that, which is cool. And I honestly don't think that needs any further explanation. I mean, your headcanon could come all the way the rest of the
Mm.
way on that one. That's fine. But
It is
yeah,
very similar to there is Donna does point something out about this in Fires of Pompeii, actually, to mention
Mhm.
another Roman episode. It is noted that she sounds like she's talking Celt. She's talking Celtic, right? When she says
Right.
something that isn't easily understandable by a Latin speaker. She just
Yeah.
sounds like she's talking Celtic gibberish, right?
Yeah.
So that's part of the plot. But yeah, even Donna, who you would think would notice the lip syncing thing, doesn't. So Bill's ahead of her on that.
There's a weird I remember the first time they actually talked about this. I don't remember the scene exactly, but I know it's in, The Mask of Mandragora when Sarah notices it, and, what's I don't think ever been clarified, I don't think they ever need to, honestly, is that I as again, correct me if I'm wrong, fans, but I believe the twist there is that because she notices it, that's how the Doctor knows she's been manipulated. So there's sort of a weird perception filter to it that I don't think exists anymore. You know what I mean? Like it's kind of
Mm,
like part and parcel of the translation is there's a perception filter that there's nothing weird about everything being translated. And now I think it's better this way because it's a way the show can, again, through a new companion every couple of years, re-explain why everybody speaks English. I think that's completely fine,
yeah,
especially when you can do it in such a fun and sort of winsome way that Bill does here.
yeah.
But it is
In a
it is
way that brings it home to a new generation. Absolutely.
yeah. So I'm sort of glad that they forgot about that along with temporal grace. Um, so other things I like, I mean, just the writing in general. I think at this point, Moffat, Capaldi, the staff. I mean, they're really hitting their stride. I don't know how many of these asides were Ronan Monroe, how many were Moffat inserting or the
Mm,
script editor, but like things like if you want to win a war, remember it's not about you. There's the bit where the doctor talks about where I'm going to run into maximum danger, or let me and you and him and Nardole, and it's like, well, if Bill's not there, we'll know she's safe. Okay, which
yeah.
I thought, like, I like the Doctor Who adventuring logic of that. It's like, let's just
Yep.
go to the most dangerous thing, and she's probably
Just
there. But
run
if she's
right in.
not, she's fine. Like
Yeah.
it's like, okay,
It's
that
not
makes
like there'll be a second most dangerous thing. There can
yeah.
only be one dangerous thing out there.
And there's the bit also about the everyone in the universe sounding like children to the Doctor, where,
Mm,
particularly when all the groups sort of come together. And again, very very insightful writing. It's clever and funny, but it's also like, well, yeah, of course they would. He's thousands of years old. He's seen it all, and he constantly has to reteach lessons to various groups of people about the futility of violence and that kind of stuff.
yeah.
So that makes a ton of sense to me.
Yeah, it's a good episode for Nardole, and I don't say that very
Hmm.
often. I think that Nardole is not one of my favorite companions. I feel like he was a bit bit wasted or just didn't fit properly, or just like Nardole is too much Matt Lucas. Like it's
Right.
just Matt Lucas, and you've just given him this other name. Matt Lucas wasn't really well known over here before Bake Off, right? Before Great British Bake Off kind of made him a
Is he still?
celebrity. I think. Well, I will
I
tell
don't
you that
really know Matt Lucas.
one of the more popular Matchball stories of the last year was when we did an opinion piece that basically said Matt Lucas shouldn't be on Bake Off anymore. He's kind of not the right host. He's too distracting. He's too doing his own thing. And I sort of felt like that about Nardole often, but here he totally works. Like and he does stuff in the script that no other companion could do. He talks casually about other disappearances and mysteries and Mary Celeste, and we see the face paint that's been put on him, see time passing, and then there's the popcorn. He's carrying around this popcorn that is unpopped, and it allows the Doctor to have this wonderful. It's Chekhov's popcorn, basically. The Doctor has this wonderful scene where he's like, "I'd like it very much if you could jump out of your skins now, so Nardole and I can escape in the confusion." I love that. I love when the Doctor explains his plan, and then obviously throws the popcorn on the fire. There's great confusion. They escape.
Yeah. Good moment, for sure.
Wonderful moment. So yes, cheers to Nardole in this. He gets a lot of good lines. He gets the Death by Scotland line, and it actually feels like he has a purpose in being there. And also, he can be outraged at the end when he finds that Missy was in the TARDIS all along.
Yeah, and the Missy stuff's really good, like really good, honestly. And just to get a quick aside on that, I was more angered by it. Not this, like the Missy arc in this season, as much as I might have issues with the vault and stuff. Is very, very good, and it just knowing what happened later with the Master, and basically Chibnall brought him back and just ignored all of this. Makes me angry, honestly. Like I feel like there was a lot happening here, and to your point about, I forget what we were talking about at the time. I think we're talking about speculating what RTD is going to do in coming seasons, but you really need to go with yes and in terms of responding to what came before. It's more like that sort of improv rule. Yes and. I mean, don't just gloss over. The Valyard's a thing. like you don't have to do it, but if you're going to do stuff, you should probably talk about the Valyard or whatever, right? Like, I mean, don't just ignore
mention
these.
It if you can. If you can, if it makes sense. But just you're going to throw around. It's Doctor Who. You're going to throw around a lot of confusing stuff for a casual audience anyway. You might as well make it confusing stuff that actually references the show's history and characters that we've cared about, versions of the Doctor, whatever. Speaking of versions of the Doctor, one of the more intriguing lines that he drops in here is that he was a Vestal Virgin second class.
You take that one.
Yeah, so been looking up Vestal Virgins.
Okay.
There were
you just
a
do
maximum...
that every Friday night or so?
Yeah, exactly. I go on vestalvirgin.com, and it's amazing how many of them there are. But in ancient Rome, there were just 7, and they were very important. So, being a Vestal Virgin second class, not a thing, first of all, so far as we know, a second class of Vestal Virgin. But also that would make him, or you would have to say her, perhaps this is a previous female regeneration of the Doctor, unless he was really astonishingly good at disguise. They were supposed to enter during puberty and be sworn to celibacy for 30 years, which...
Oh. Yeah. That's like your entire life back then.
Yeah. Or like the entire classic run of the show, pretty much, during which the Doctor was certainly very celibate, so far as we know. But yes, 6 maximum. There was some sort of, to replace a Vestal who died, like a mid-season Vestal Virgin replacement, you didn't have to be a prepubescent girl. You didn't even have to be a virgin. So I'm thinking that's how the Doctor got in.
I see.
You could even be a widow or a divorcee. So that's the maybe they created a second class position just for him / her.
Or he just made
Or
it up.
or the doctor lies.
The doctor
Or
lies.
rule one, the doctor lies and just likes to, fry Nardole's circuitry by talking about having been a Vestal virgin.
Yeah. I think I might go with that one. Sorry, I'm the killjoy and all the fun things here that could happen. No, I did love
Yeah.
the popcorn.
Crows don't speak. The doctor isn't a Vestal virgin. Come on, Pete. Come on, Mr. Fun
You
Police.
got to give me more if I'm going with it. But ultimately, like, I think to come down on the sort of overall takeaway here, and I'm not going to go with, we have our rating system. Maybe it's time to go to that, where is this a Dalek? Is it an Ogron? Is it a banger, Viscount or otherwise? I would say it's the most banal Dalek out there.
Yeah.
It's like 2 down from the guy in the lead who's doing all the talking, and he's competently exterminating things, but you really don't care if he's there or not. And I feel like this should be good Doctor Who. On paper, it seems like good Doctor Who. Like it's almost like a textbook story. You got some moralistic storytelling. There's a historical setting. There's a monster in this historical thing that adds an interesting quirk that is supposed to raise the stakes. That's all very Doctor Who-ish. But it just doesn't come together. Maybe it's because the monster's a nothing burger. Maybe it's because it was repetitive of the episode that just came previously. My view is that when it's all resolved at the end, there's no ambiguity, right? I mean, people come together to defeat the monster. There's nothing to ruminate on. There's nothing to think about, like, oh, that made me either think or feel or had some visceral quality to it that I could take away from this. It's all just, oh yeah, that happened, and now let's see what's going to happen in the next thing. Oh wow, the Missy's doing a thing. Great, let's move on, and it just completely evaporates from your head, and it's too bad
Yeah.
because there is a lot of good writing here.
I mean, not every Doctor Who story can be a Viscount banger. We know that, by the way, if you're just tuning in, Viscount Banger is the name of Lala Ward's father. She is of the aristocracy, and we just love that name so much. We've introduced it into our rating system. I'm sure that our rating system will grow as the show evolves. But yeah, you almost can't have it. You kind of need something a little low key before you enter the astonishing finale of Worlds Enough in Time and the Doctor Falls.
Right.
If this had been any better, it might have, risked outshining that, because you really need it to sort of be, oh, it's just an average adventure that Missy is watching. By the way, maybe another reason the randomizer took us here is the randomizer likes it when Time Lords watch the Doctor's adventures, as we found out when it took us to the first trial of a Time Lord, which was basically just the Time Lords watch an episode of Doctor Who. That's basically what's going on here. Except it's Missy watches an episode of Doctor Who, discovers she's really gets emotional about bagpipes, and becomes more human because of it. So I like that it has a rationale to exist. I like that it drives the Doctor Who legend forward in a number of intriguing ways. I like that it gives you, little mind bombs like crows can speak and the Doctor was a Vestal virgin, and you can do with that what you will.
Or not.
It doesn't. Or not. It doesn't, and that's part of the joy of Doctor Who. You get to do with it whatever you want. But it doesn't feel like a waste of space entirely.
Yes.
It did make me look up the Ninth Legion. I wasn't aware of the history of the Ninth Legion before, and I wasn't aware that there were 2 movies, one starring Channing Tatum, about the Ninth Legion in the last.
And one starred Colin Firth, I believe, right? I hadn't seen it either.
I don't think it was Colin Firth. Who was in Centurion?
Let's look it up. We're doing it right now in real time.
We're doing it live. Centurion film, 2010.
Michael Fassbender?
That's it. Fassbender was in it.
Oh, yeah.
And Dominic West from The Wire. And Noel Clarke. And Riz Ahmed and David Morrissey, the next Doctor, was in it as well, making it even more confusing if Bill watched it.
Nice. Speaking of Fassbender, I just saw Steve Jobs finally.
Yeah, that
great
was
performance.
Yeah,
that is issues. Okay, That's
Yeah.
now I'm really opening up a rabbit hole. So we're going to close it immediately as
That's
soon
for
as
our
I said it.
next podcast.
Yeah,
Next
I'm
podcast
glad
about tech
Eaters of
movies.
Light exists. Don't get me wrong.
Mm.
I don't think it's an ogron. I don't think it's a waste of time. Even if only for that scene where Bill rises to the occasion and the bit where she's talking to the soldiers. I thought all of that was very good, very satisfying. It does something on her journey.
Mm. And
I
coming from Terminus, I have to say, coming direct to this from Terminus
yeah.
is what we
Wow.
needed. That we needed a palate cleanser after Terminus too.
That's a good
You
way
know,
to think about it. Palate cleanser. I like that.
yeah.
We've had a sip of water, and I'm ready for some fine wine. And whenever you're ready, Chris, I'm happy to activate the randomizer because
All
I think
right.
we've eaten all the light we can.
We've all the light we cannot see it has been eaten. So, Pete, while I'm firing up my section of the randomizer, do you want to tell the listeners what the randomizer is?
The randomizer is our great and powerful being, God, great one, whatever you want to call it. No, we swear complete fealty to the randomizer. It is guiding us on our journey here on Pull to Open. The randomizer picks the next random episode of Doctor Who we will be watching, and it consists of two parts. So the first is the Pull to Open Codex, which I have open in front of me, a Google Sheet with all of the televised episodes of Doctor Who listed 1 through 300.
Yeah, go check it out in the show notes. We made some
Mm-hmm.
decisions about what is a single story of Doctor Who that don't necessarily line up with what the show says, but in terms of the stories that we want to watch, there are 300 of them now,
Right.
as of the latest Sea Devil story. And the second part is random.org, which is what I'm looking at,
Mm-hmm.
which is a website that finds true randomness by looking at atmospheric noise readings, which is better than algorithms that computer programs usually use to just kind of pick a quote-unquote random number out of thin air. It's not truly random. But if you really want to get all Doctor Who and woo-woo about this, you want the atmospheric noise. So that's what we're doing.
Yep.
I
True
have
randomness.
I've plugged the numbers 1, minimum 1, maximum 300, minimum of an unearthly child, maximum of Legend of the Sea Devils, into random.org. And when Pete gives me the countdown, I'm going to hit generate, and we will regenerate into a new story.
Well, do we want to give a challenge to the randomizer?
Yeah,
I think it's
I have a
time.
challenge. I have a challenge for a randomizer. Take us to another story with at least one Roman in it.
Oh, would Rory count?
Rory counts. I'm counting Rory, so that's why I'm giving the randomizer
Okay.
a more of a base here. So it could be the Romans, it could be Fires of Pompeii, it could be the Pandorica Opens Big Bang. It could even be like Good Man Goes to War, right? He's dressed up as a centurion in that. Or there's the Christmas episode. He just dresses up as a centurion for just for fun, kids. That's all they were doing. So I like that challenge because the randomizer seems to like to fulfill these requests in creative ways, right?
Yeah. No, that's a good
if there's
one.
a Roman anywhere in it, we're good.
So my challenge will be take us anywhere with space or time in the title.
Ooh. Okay.
Because we're wandering all of space-time, right? Everywhere and anywhere, every star that ever was.
Are there a lot of stories with space in the title?
Space Museum, Space Pirates.
Yeah.
It's probably the only two. There might be
Space
more.
Pirates could be good, given the we could compare that to Legend of the Sea Devils, which I might actually watch by next week. So that could be interesting.
Yeah.
All right.
So there's some.
Well, we have our challenges.
Yeah.
A lot of time. We know that.
And now you have your countdown.
Yep.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Fantastic.
29.
29. Whoa. Are you kidding me?
No, that's early.
It's the power of the Daleks.
Ooh.
What? Power of the Daleks.
Is that Troughton's first?
Of course that's Troughton's first. Yes,
it is.
Power of the Daleks.
The Power of the Daleks, which was recently turned. I actually saw that in the theater when they released it in
Yeah.
2016. Yeah, so I guess we will be watching that again.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
Wow. Okay, it's a longer
we
one. It's a 6-episode opener. But yeah,
it
this
is
is the very first new Doctor story, obviously.
yes.
Wow. Okay, it's interesting. And
Doctor number
obviously we
2.
had already done the 10th planet. We've done that some time ago now, but
Yeah.
this is
That
cool.
is the other thing the randomizer loves to do, right? Is it likes to take us back to the episode just after an episode we've seen.
Yeah, that's the thing it likes to do aside from ignoring all of our challenges. Or doing precisely the opposite in some cases.
It fulfills them just later. Like it heard our many time issued request that we get lots of Dalek stories.
That's
because we
true.
haven't had any. And here is reputedly one of the best.
Yeah, just 3 down. We just did Genesis, and now we're doing Power. And I think, remember when I was talking about going in chronological order? This might actually work. Because this one,
Really?
yeah, because this is early in the Cosmos timeline Dalek episode, because it's a early colony of. We'll get into it. We'll get into it. But it's this is not far future Daleks. These are fairly new Daleks.
All I remember about
in there.
Power of the Daleks, I'll just say this, and then we'll leave it to next week. Is I remember it came out in November 2016, which was a very dark time in the world, and I could not watch this without thinking of the horror that potentially awaited us, the radiation-soaked landscape that potentially we were in for.
Guys, if
but
you
yeah,
people not looking
get
on
into that.
YouTube, Chris's hands are in front of his face. He's like, horror. We're in the heart of darkness, but we're going to get there next week, everybody, when we tune into Power of the Daleks, because we're just at the end of this outing, chatting about Eaters of Light. Hey, this is Pull to Open. It's a podcast. Thank you so much for listening, but it is a podcast, and podcasts really thrive on subscription, so hit that subscribe button if you haven't. Also thrive on reviews. Review the pod if you haven't. We are also on social. Follow us on social if you haven't. We're at Pull to Open on TikTok, Pull to Open 63 on Twitter, Pull to Open 63 on Instagram, and various other platforms. Oh, we're on YouTube. We're on YouTube.
Yeah.
So Google, search for us there. Pull to Open. Doctor Who will find our podcast, and tell all your friends. Tell a whole bunch.
Yeah, we may start bringing in folks from other Doctor Who podcasts to join us in our random adventure, so listen out for that.
Ooh, yes. Nice little tease. That could be happening very, very soon, everyone. So tune in for Power of the Daleks, where we may have a special guest. All right, Chris, It's been real. We will see you next time.